And to profound peace and blessings, this is Derek Raku Moore. And in this video, we want to talk about how to develop your faith in Kemetic spirituality. How to develop your faith in Kemetic spirituality. Now, before we begin, let's address the elephant in the room. And I went ahead and I wrote some notes down because I want to make sure that we get all this. I want to make sure that we cover this. So let's address the elephant in the room, which is, why haven't I been around? Why haven't I made a video since, I think it was October 2024? Okay, what's going on? First of all, it's not health related. I'm healthy, okay? I am okay. Second, it's not nothing with my family. My family, we're healthy. My family is blessed. We are blessed. We are doing well. Okay. So that being said, I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your thoughts. I appreciate your prayers. Thank you very much for that. But the reason I had to take a hiatus, and I had to stop making videos for a little bit. I had to stop with a whole lot of things, is mainly because those of you who followed my channel, you've been following this channel, and you've been on the website and everything. You know that I started the Land of Cam website around the early 2000s, and I started writing around 2009, 2010. And the reason I started doing that was mainly because I just wanted to share my experience in Kemetic spirituality. There was a lot of people that I encountered that was practicing Kemetic spirituality, but there was a lot of people that was practicing, or there was a lot of people that had questions about it. And that was really my intention. My intention was just to basically share my experience with Kemetic spirituality, because there wasn't a lot of information about it. There was not a lot of information, or a lot of people who was reporting or giving any kind of testimonials about their experience with Kemetic spirituality. Okay. In fact, I remember one of the first pages I had on one of the first Land of Cam websites. It was inspired from the Black church, and it was called "I Want to Testify." And on this page, I shared my experience, an experience I had when I did a ritual, and I was encouraging and inviting other people. Hey, share what experience you've had. Share with others so that they can understand what this was about. Okay. Now, the reason why I did that was because, like I said, there wasn't a whole lot of videos. There was not a whole lot of, not videos, but there was not a whole lot of information on the internet in regards to what Kemetic spirituality was about. Part of the reason why I did that was also because, most of you, if you followed this channel, you know about me, you've read any of the books or so, you know that I'm a PK. Okay. I'm a PK. I'm the oldest of my family, and I'm a PK. And I went against the church's thing. I was like, I can't deal with this. I can't rock with the church like this. I can't follow this path. And because I grew up in a church background, a heavily church background, and I come from a family that, uncles, father, grandfather, uncles of ministers, okay? And I turned my back on it. Well, a lot of my family is like, yeah, don't mess with him. You know, they 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 thought they literally thought I was crazy. Okay, they really thought I was crazy. So I went ahead and I started, because some of us, even though people be talking that whole spirituality thing, oh well, you should just go ahead and ignore it, this and that, and other. Yeah, okay, that's it's easier said than done. um, realistically, you still want some kind of validation. You still want to be included. That's part of the part of the ego. Okay, you still want to be included. You still want to be respected, and you still want you still want validation and love and respect from your family. And so part of the other reason why I did this was, so first of all, I did Kemetic spirituality, or I was making these, like I said, the blogs, the website, and all that kind of stuff about Kemetic spirituality was because I wanted, it was doing it as a hobby. I wanted to share my experience. But the other reason was I wanted to go ahead and prove to my family, man, I'm not crazy, because hey, oh, you dealing with that Egyptian stuff, that African stuff, dealing with all them gods and all. And I was like, we got a whole lot of science over here, a whole lot of science. We can explain a whole lot of stuff, and that's the reason why I did it. That's the reason why we made the site. Okay, now some of you went ahead and you messaged me and you was like, hey, Raku, we going ahead and we trying to find your videos. We trying to find this and we can't find it. What's going on? What's happening? Well, I went ahead and I did a little bit of investigation, and what I found out was that, as you all know, in this little cancel culture that we've been dealing with, if people have the right to disagree with you, but if they go ahead, because of, like I said, this little cancel culture thing that's going on, if someone disagrees with you because, it's not what they believe, it's not what they were told from whomever, it's not what they have read in a book, because they disagree with you, instead of them going ahead, some people, instead of them going ahead and saying, okay, well, yeah, I disagree with this and change the channel, instead of them doing that, they cowardly go ahead and they report report your stuff, report your channel, report the videos and everything. And as a result, YouTube comes down and they're like, hey, we got to go ahead, we're going to monitor, we're going to, it's flagged to see if you're, breaking the guidelines. Okay. Now, in the process of that happening, that's why some of the videos was being missing. Okay. I haven't got a report or anything. I mean, basically everything is in the clear, but that was part of the reason why some of the videos, they were not being, promoted. You weren't finding them. The other reason why some of these videos, they weren't being found is because I found out, like I said, during this research, doing this investigation, I found out that, remember, like I was saying, part of the reason why I was making these videos, or part of the reason why I was making any of the videos or so, is because I was really doing it as a hobby. And because I was doing it as a hobby, I didn't have the intention of, trying to convert people. I wasn't trying to get a following and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't doing any of that. I was just basically, like I said, I'm trying to share information, share my experience, share my, help people to understand what Kemetic spirituality is and why, why I embrace it, why, why I think it's, a beautiful thing, how it connects us back to our ancestral heritage, which was lost and kind of tampered with during the whole Black experiences in the Americas, dealing with the slavery and everything else. That was the reason for doing it. But because I was doing it like that, you all know, every now and then I went ahead and I would make a video about make a video about something that was random that had nothing to do with Kemetic spirituality. It tied into Kemetic spirituality, but it didn't. Okay. Like recently, the latest thing here, is about this thing regarding Jamar, Lord Jamar. I would like to go ahead and do that, And like I said, the way it was explained to me was that when I go ahead and I would do stuff like that, it confused the algorithm. So here the algorithm is like, hey, you want to do a video, or you're doing video. This channel is about Kemetic spirituality. This channel deals with, ancestor veneration, and it deals with explaining things from, dealing with the Congo spirituality, how that connects with Kemetic spirituality. Oh, okay, all right. This is what the algorithm is thinking. Oh, okay, I see that. And you deal with a little bit of Kemetic spiritism and some Kemetic shamanism. Oh, okay, all right. So why are you talking about Lord Jamar? Why are you talking about the movie Sinners? Yeah, I know it has something to, yeah, that's confusing me, and that's, the way it was explained, they were saying, yeah, that's what happens. That's what's going on. And because of that, the algorithm just goes ahead and just throws his hands up in the air, and next thing you know, yeah, your video is not being promoted. So that's the second reason why, we end up doing that. It was explained to me that, hey, if you want to go ahead and you want to talk about, some popular stuff, you want to talk about current affairs, you need another channel. Oh, okay. So it's like, that's how it works. You live and learn. And then, so that's the reason why now, okay, we're being intentional, and I'm specifying, I'm stating. In today's video, now let me get serious. In today's video, like I said, we're going to talk about how to develop your faith in Kemetic spirituality. Okay, how to develop your faith in Kemetic spirituality. All right. Now, like I said, I went ahead and I wrote down some notes and everything because I want to make sure that, this is clear. I want to, and again, this is all based upon my experience. This is based upon what I know, not what I've read, not what someone has told me. This is based upon what I know. And in order to develop your faith in Kemetic spirituality, the first thing you have to understand is that in many of the Western traditions, we are taught that faith is based upon belief. Okay? Let me say it again. In many of the Western traditions, we're talking about Christianity, so forth and so on. It is based upon belief. That's not how it works in Kemetic spirituality. In Kemetic spirituality, faith is based upon being in alignment with Ma'at. Okay? Let me say it again. In Kemetic spirituality, faith is based upon being in alignment with Ma'at. Okay? M-A-A. All right? Ma'at, remember, is the personification of Ma'at. So Ma'at basically, remember, Ma'at is we're talking about the principles of balance, the principles of harmony, divine order, the principle of truth, okay? Ma'at is the personification of that. It's the personification of all those principles, all right? Now, in order to kind of explain this, if you recall, if you've read the story of Osir, you know that in the story, Heru, which the Greeks call Horus, he fights Set. And then there's this one particular battle they're fighting. They're going at it. Set managed to get close enough to Heru where he's able to gouge his eye out. Okay. Now, when he gouges his eye out, it forces the young Heru to, he retreats. Him and his forces, they retreat. They go and they seek out Jehuti. Jehuti is who the Greeks called Thoth. And they go and they seek out Jehuti, and Jehuti is, Osir or Osiris's his friend, his visor. They go ahead and they seek him out, and Jehuti repairs his eye. He repairs his eye perfectly. Okay. Now, this is all allegory. It's all dealing with symbolism. And what it's explaining is that Jehuti, first of all, is not the moon god. Okay. I don't know I know where people got that from, but Jehuti is not the moon god. Jehuti is the personification of wisdom. So when Jehuti goes in and he repairs Haru's eye, what he's basically symbolizing is that he is an individual, he or she, is an individual who basically, they can see both sides of the picture. Okay, they can see the whole side of the picture, and they can go ahead and they can give insight about it. Okay, so the eye that Jehuti repaired was the left uchat, the lunar eye of Ra, or the Abit, which is on the Ma'ak. It corresponds to the Amun Ra moment. Okay, so you see, Set gouging out Haru's eye is an illusion referring to the fact that Haru, like Set, could only see the material and physical world. When Jehuti repaired his eye, Haru could now see, or rather, he had access to the spiritual world. In other words, Jehuti repaired the spiritual eye, which, people nowadays, they call the third eye. He repaired his spiritual eye, which made Haru aware of the sacred rhythms of the universe by giving him signs, by giving Haru insight, giving Haru intuitive guidance that comes from the Aku, the ancestors and spirit guides. So next thing you know is, as the story goes, basically, Haru goes ahead. The next time he finds Set, the next time they go ahead and they get in, they get into this battle, Haru defeats him quickly. Defeats Set quickly. Okay. And this brings us to the whole idea about faith. Faith is something that a lot of us, we struggle with. And the reason why is because we have been taught in the churches and in the kingdom halls and everywhere, we've been taught that basically faith deals with belief. And we've been taught really to have blind faith in believing that, if we do this, God is going to bless us. If we do this, Jehovah or whomever is going to bless us. Okay. And as a result, it's put a bad taste in our mouth in regards to faith and in regards to spirituality. Even though we don't want to say it and we don't want to admit it subconsciously, it's a bad taste in our mouth in regards to faith and everything. And as a result, what happens is, a lot of us, when we get into Kemetic spirituality, or we start getting interested in Kemetic spirituality, we go through this whole thing of memorizing all sorts of Kemetic symbols. We go ahead, we memorize and commit to memory all these, the symbols, the science and all that kind of stuff. And the whole reason why we do that is so that we're not taken advantage of, like we were when we were Christians. Or like we were when we were, like I said, we was at the Kingdom Hall and all this kind of stuff. We do that in order to avoid, like I said, being taken advantage of and being misled. The problem, though, what we fail to understand is that this is our ego, which is personified as Set. This is our ego trying to maintain control and trying to make us, basically, it's making us act out of fear and out of doubt. I know it's hard for a lot of us to really do this, but in order to have faith, okay, this is what the whole story is referring to. In order for us to have faith, we got to surrender control. And when you surrender control, okay, that's what the whole illusion about the eye is dealing with. When you surrender control, that's when you align yourself with the Ma'at. Okay. You see, when your eye has been repaired by Jehuti and you are in alignment with Ma'at, you can honor your ancestors and call upon them to bless you with their knowledge, wisdom, and strength. You know that they will because you have faith in both worlds, the spiritual world and the material world. When you call upon your spirit guides to guide you and to protect you and to fight for you, it's all out of knowing, okay? It's because you are in alignment with Ma'at. So to develop your faith in Kemetic spirituality, you must first begin by establishing a rapport with your ancestors and your spirit guides. You got to choose one day to honor your ancestors, okay? At least one day out of the week to go ahead and honor them so that you can communicate, or so that they can communicate to you through your dreams, feelings and synchronicities, which will help you to realize that you are not alone, okay? And once you go ahead and you get that, that's how you develop your faith in Kemetic spirituality, okay? I hope this helps you. If you have comments, questions, or suggestions, feel free to drop me a line as usual. Because, like I said, I'm being intentional. If you want to learn more about this, check out Honoring the Ancestors, the Kemetic Shaman Way. Okay. And we had to go in, we had to list all the books. All the books are being sold on the Land of Cam website. So if you want to find out more information about this and find out how this works, get a little bit more insight into why it works and how it works, check out the Land of Cam website. Okay. As I've stated before, if you got any comments, questions, or suggestions, feel free to drop us a line. Until next time, Hechapu. Peace.